All right, I haven't done this before. What I'm going to try and put a video together, I've never tried this before, is all the images that I used to build a basic rendering based on now the proportions that have been set in all the door openings and the length of the wheelbase and everything, now that they're basically fixed. So literally started with photo that I took when it was completely stock, and then I used an old program from Corel Draw 9 from 1999 to literally cut and paste to make things longer or change the angle of things. And it's very laborious, but it's just what I know. It's a program we have. It's something that my wife gave me a head start in because she used to use it for work, and I've just continued to use it and use it, self-taught myself basically the rest of it, to try and just cut pieces out. You cut the car in half, say, between the doors, move them apart, then cut another piece of the front door and another piece of the back door, add it in between, and you know, slide the pieces together again. Or I might get a piece and then actually stretch it and that sort of thing. This is what this program can at least do. You can do freehand cutouts and that sort of stuff too, where you can either just draw around, or you can pull out a circle, like when I was changing wheel sizes and that sort of stuff. I'm not going to show any of that because I don't think there'll be any interest on how to cut and paste from a program that's from 1999. But I also use a bit of AI for colouring and at the very end. So hopefully there's something in there. I might as well show my workstation. So I'm just using ClipTemp, the free program that comes with Windows 10. I'm surrounded, this is obviously my corner of the lounge room. Our lounge room is so tiny that there's my wife's computer desk and everything, and here's mine. And I've surrounded myself with all the models that I collected for my last build, which was my truck, for those that have only been following for this build. But basically I built a 1948 Willys Overland and used parts from a 1958 as well, and I widened the cab and lengthened the cab and built a whole new tray for it, and it's painted this exact colour. So I'm going to attempt to show all these images, put them together in a video, and then somehow add audio to it. I've never done that before, but I think I'll just take another video and then remove the audio and paste it over the top of this. I have no idea how this is going to work out. I don't have a microphone, so I can't do a voiceover while I'm looking at it. So wish me luck. Alright, so this is for those that don't read the blog or the forums. I'll just update what's happening here. So this is the stock photo that I started with. That's with the rear axle and everything still in place. The front axle was already taken out at this stage, and so the front was just made to equal the rear. From the bottom of the running board to the ground is 315 millimeters or 12.5 inches. The body was then lowered down to 7 inches at the rear distance from the running board to the ground, and 6 at the front. So later on I level it for ease of making the changes to the photos, so it's a lot easier to move everything on a horizontal plane. So that's what I did. So this is still 2 inches above what the donor Chrysler 300 runs at, so I may still lower it another 2 inches, and I'm building everything to suit 2 inches lower, but for the moment this is what we are working to. So this is when I start using the Corel Photo Paint 9 program, and I've cut the car in half, basically lengthen and put the parts of the door back in place again to make each door 5 inches longer. So this stretches the wheelbase from 113 to 123 inches, which is 2 inches longer than the Willys 8-88, which was the sometimes called the 6-wheel version or the extended wheelbase version of this car made in America. They were never made here in Australia in the long wheelbase version. Next photo, I realised that by this stage in the build that the rear window was not going to be higher than the parcel shelf. So what I've done is I've wedged the body upwards from the bottom of the belt line, just below the window sills there, and increased it from the stock 1/2 degree to 2 degrees, so 1.5 inches higher, degrees higher, so that the parcel shelf cannot be seen through the rearmost window. Extended the doors over the frame cover. I wanted to improve the proportions of the door to window size. The ideal is 2/3, 1/3, and this just gets it closer, and I didn't want that much frame cover between the bottom of the doors and the running board. So the running board's left their stock, it's just the door is being made to go over the top of the frame cover. Now, to maybe run the fall 2 inches lower than the photos, the rear wheel arch was too low to run full up travel. So the whole rear wheel arch was raised higher to an extra 2 inches or 50 millimetres higher, and that makes it line up with the donor wheel arch as well in the inner shell. So that will allow me to run that full drop if I need to, or have all the up travel even if I run it at the higher ride height. In this shot here, I've widened the C-pillar, so the seatbelt mount and everything go in, and I'd also moved it forward 2 inches and then taken an inch out of each door. So at this stage I haven't increased the wheelbase at all, it's still the same as the 10 inches extra. Another thing I was experimenting around with is with the longer body, I wanted to balance the bonnet length or hood length. So here I've just covered more of the cowl with the bonnet and bonnet sides, so not changing the length of the car, just bringing it back to give an illusion of a longer bonnet. And I think that really needs some proportions, although I don't like the short vents that have been left with that big gap in between. So I've stretched out the vents here to lengthen those, so you've got a similar distance of A-pillar width to the cowl, and then from the cowl to the start of the vents. And I think this looks much better, and also gives that extra bit of length to help balance the look of everything. So here I'm using AI for the first time. This is ChatGPT. I used a program called Real Car Painter, change the colour of your car. It gives prompts of what to do. You upload by clicking on the little cross next to in the comment window, and it will, then you can upload your photo. I just had a free account, so I could only do 3 uploads in a day and make so many revisions, and then you'd have to wait 24 hours. Unfortunately, it changes an awful lot else, even though all I asked for was to, change the colour and restore the panels. It restored them back to what the cowl was before. So it was quite frustrating. It made a lot of changes, put a brow above the windscreen, and it changed the surrounds around the window and all these things. It did add some smoothies in that I'd asked for, and Also a bigger smoothie. I asked for 18-inch smoothies, and this is also with a 255 by 60 by 18 tyre on it that we intend to run. It was supposed to keep them the same front and rear, but you can see it's put a smaller one on the front. In this photo here, I've just asked it to add the chrome centre caps, and then the surrounding around the windows also got changed, and the door handle got changed. So it's all these sort of things that it does without asking or any other prompts. So it's a little bit frustrating. I tried a different shade of gold here, and it suddenly changed the wheels at the same time to that of what was on there originally, with all this fine pinstriping on it, and added rubber covers to the running boards. It also added 2 hinges to the rear doors, so it's quite funny how it's changing things, and it changed the doors once again as well. So yeah, you never know what you're going to get with AI. So I gave up on AI, and I took the last photo, put it back in Corel, and I've used a combination of also erasing things like the brow that it had put above the windscreen, and just using the erasing tool in the Windows photo program, and then I've used Corel for the rest. What I was trying out here, as I was moving the cowl seam back again to where it was, I decided to see what it would look like extended all the way to the leading edge of the front door, the door opening, but it didn't look good that long. It just looked a little odd, because you still got to have then a shorter bonnet than the cowl sides and the bonnet sides, and that just does not look good. I've also made the wheels the same size front and rear just by cutting, pasting the rear wheel and putting it on the front. And this one, I've moved the cowl seam back 4 inches, and also squared up the window opening on the front door, because that also got sloped back by AI without asking. In this one here, I thought the roof line looked a little bit tall, so I lowered it down and made the top of the windows openings parallel with the bottom of the doors. So you end up with a wedge shape to the windows because of the 2-degree upslope of the lower window sill and belt line, but felt this was a little too low. This shot I went halfway in between, and really liked the proportions, with the rear door ends up parallel lines top to bottom of the window opening. I went outside and measured what the stock window was, and turns out this is stock. So I don't even have to alter anything to get this look. It's just another thing that AI had changed. I also moved the door hinges to where they're going to be. Now that I had the pillar, the C pillar finished, I knew where the hinges were going to end up, so I moved the hinges to that place, and also where the future front hinges are going to be. You might also notice the front door edge opening is now also vertical, along with that squared up window, which is what the Willys had stock. I'm trying to keep Willys characteristics where I can and where I like them. I'm not trying to make this look like a 32 Ford. I want to keep those peculiarities. Now I tried uploading back to GPT just the standard one, and asked it to put it in an abandoned warehouse. Unfortunately, it also made the car a little bit longer, as you can see here, without changing, even though I said do not change a single pixel or proportion of the vehicle. It still does it, and this was even after getting it to try and correct back to original proportions. So it's a constant fight. I'm obviously not wording it correctly or something, but at least I've got a bit of an idea what it looked like in this colour and in that setting. getting a bit frustrated with GBT with all the changes it was making, as well as the limited amount that I could do every day and then have to wait again for 24 hours before I could do some more. So here I've used Google Gemini for the first time. I just uploaded the photo and said, place in a 1930s street scene. Do not change the proportions of the car at all. And this is what it turned it into. And it also, you can see that the gold is a bit of a different colour as well. I do like how Gemini has actually kept the proportions way better than ChatGPT. So in the future, I just continued using this program instead. I even managed to get a much darker bronzy colour, which is very close to the Pagan Gold House of Colour over black candy that my wife has chosen. It was one of the colour samples we shot for the truck, and I just didn't think it suited the truck, but I absolutely loved the colour, and so did my wife. So she said, we're painting my car that colour. So I'm really liking the look of it, and this is a great tool to give you an idea of what the car looks like in the different colours. Now, by this stage, I sat down and had finished all the pillars and knew the exact size the door was going to come. So I literally blew everything up to 300% or more, and then used CorelDRAW to measure everything up for the proportions. This is when I realised that the C pillar actually is much further forward of the rear axle centre line than stock. So I had to, in fact it's 8 inches or 204 mil short further forward. So I had to lengthen all that, and then I actually had to lengthen the wheelbase as well. So quite a bit had changed in this photo, just to get everything proportionally with bonnet length to cabin length. Everything was just calculated out on the ratio of door height versus window height, in comparison to things that I knew were correct. One thing I tried with Gemini is to see if it could make a change for me rather than doing it in Corel 9. What I did is I uploaded a photo of I think it was called a Willys coach, which is a 2-door version of the Willys 32 Willys, and I got it to say, can you make the wider D pillar, so the rearmost part of the cab, wider and make the C window smaller by the same proportion. And it did a really good job. I was very pleased with the way that has turned out. It does shorten the car at the rear a little bit up because it was starting to look awfully long. So this, even though this wheelbase and everything is in the realm of the Lincoln, Cadillacs, your straight out Packards and some of your Oldsmobiles and everything of that era, this was considered the top-end luxury car. So these proportions and sizes did exist in the 1930s. So I haven't created anything that never existed back then. It was just the high-end, more luxury stuff, or sometimes what they call 6-wheel vehicles that had the spare on each side, just forward of the front door. Here I've included measurements to show what has changed. So I've added in total from stock 16.3 inches to the wheelbase, or 415 mil, 120 to come out at 129 inches. There may be an extra inch added for fan to engine clearance, but up until this place, this is what I'm building to, and from the firewall back, that is already fixed and it's going to be at these things. You can see also how much extra the 1.5 degrees has added to the rear, and how much the C pillar has been pushed forward as well. So this was just a little bonus shot that it threw in for some reason. I said thank you very much for doing the D pillar widening, and suddenly it uploaded an extra image with the door off and a 1930s interior in there. So anyway, I hope you still like the project. Part of this exercise was to make sure that my wife and I liked where it was going once I had all the fixed points of the body shell set out. I wanted to see if it was something that didn't even look good in 2D with the proportions that we're building to, then what was the point of continuing? You know, I don't know what I would have done. I'd maybe not use anything of the donor shell and started again, but that's why I've basically left the Willys body untouched apart from lengthening, you know, the rear guard for the extra height that it's going to sit at. Everything else is still stock. So I could sell that off and use the drivetrain in something completely different if that was the way. It would have killed my wife if we'd gone to that point, but I wasn't going to build an ugly car. So I hope you stayed with it through all this, and catch you later. Domburn Customs, I stripped down one of these bodies, they're die cast with a plastic rear tray on them, just from the local Kmart store, and got them to paint the cab and then put all the windows back in and put chrome on the different things and to make it look as much like my truck as possible. So most people don't realise I only collect models of cars I own or a variant similar. So I've got a panel delivery and the station wagon version, which has the identical front to the trucks and everything. In fact, they just cut it behind the A-pillar. You can actually still see parts of pressings that used to go on for the wagon when you pull them apart. So this is quite an extensive collection. These were all coin banks, and so there's no two are alike. And this is, I wouldn't say that it's quite an extensive collection of what's out there. I don't know of many or any that still exist, except things like the Harley Davidson one. They did a special edition for the Harley Davidson dealers in different US states, and so I think there's like 22 of these different ones or whatever it added up to. Obviously every state would be a lot more, but where there's a major Harley Davidson dealer, and so they just had a different dealer printed on the top. So that gives you a bit of an idea of I suppose a bit of an obsession there. I used to have it on all these XJ Cherokees, and when I sold the Cherokee, I sold off all the models as well to a collector. And they're the last ones of there. And there's the current calendar for the for the Willys truck and wagon forum. And my truck is actually in here somewhere. There it is. There you go. Look at that, November. So that was taken by Dale as we were driving into Highballs Goes Country, which was a little charity raiser for the local country fire authority.